Going to give folks just a few moments to join us, and we will get started momentarily. All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Supplier Diversity Data at Your Fingertips, Diversity in Tennessee, DIT or DIT2 Dashboard. This is Tennessee's 2022 Cronin Bronze Award project. Thank you for spending some time with us today. We're glad you're here. This is the third webinar in our 2022 Cronin Awards webinar series. Be sure to check out our upcoming webinars. On Wednesday, February 22nd, join us for a look at Georgia's Procurement Officer Boot Camp. Then join us Wednesday, March 1st, for a look at The Right Step, how Minnesota improves contract compliance. Registration is open for those remaining webinars in the Cronin Awards series. You can visit NASPO.org to register. And look for the webinars tab on the left side of the page. We look forward to seeing you there. At the close of today's presentation, you'll be asked to complete a very brief questionnaire. Your feedback is very valuable to us here at NASPO. Today's presentation is good for 1 CEU contact hour. To get your certificate, simply complete the questionnaire following the presentation. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to explain the format of today's webinar. All attendees are muted. You can enter comments and questions in the chat box. If you would like to ask our presenters a question, you can type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your window. Questions may be addressed during the presentation or during a Q&A session after the presentation. I'm very pleased to introduce today's speakers. Today we are honored to have with us Jessica Starling. Jessica is the Director of the Civil Rights Division with the Department of Transportation of the state of Tennessee. Jessica has 12 years of experience in multiple roles with the state, including several with the Governor's Office of Diversity Business Enterprise. Also with us is Richard Van Norman. He is the Diversity Team Lead with the Governor's Office of Diversity Business Enterprise for the state of Tennessee. Richard has nearly 20 years of experience with the state, including 2 years in his current role. NASPO is grateful to have both of you here with us. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jessica.
Thanks, Chadwick. I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Diversity Intelligence in Tennessee, or DIT2. We are very excited that you've chosen to join today's presentation and believe that you will receive a lot of helpful information on how to implement something similar to your state if you choose to do so. So as of the last 3 to 4 years, you may have noticed that there was a huge uptick in the topic of diversity and how it's moved to the forefront in both the public and private sectors. Now more than ever, people are paying a lot of attention to what we're really doing in terms of increasing and encouraging diversity within our entities, which is why Richard and I are very excited to share what we've done and to share our story and hopefully help you to kind of recreate the wheel in your state for diversity. So here is our agenda for today. We're going to go over our program overview, talk about Executive Order number 1. In some ways, this is how DIT2 became available. is in some ways responsible for the creation of the DIT2 dashboard. We'll dive into the issue, the need, solution, as well as how DIT2 works, what it produces, and how you can replicate it. And as Chadwick mentioned, we will reserve space at the end of the presentation to address any questions you may have. So here you'll see our Tennessee Code Annotated, or state law, put into place to create the Governor's Office of Diversity Business Enterprise, or GO-DBE. And December of 2023 will mark the office's 20th year anniversary of attracting, assisting, educating, and being the central point of contact for small and diverse businesses looking to work with the state. So GO-DBE is the state of Tennessee's diversity certification program, responsible for certifying diversity businesses in 5 categories. That's minority, women, service-disabled veteran, persons with disability, and small business enterprise. The GO-DBE office is housed in the Central Procurement Office, or CPO, where our diversity business liaisons work hand in hand with the people that create the solicitations as well as write the contracts on behalf of the state of Tennessee. Our secondary purpose is to certify diversity businesses looking to work with the state of Tennessee, looking for those procurement opportunities. So we work very closely with our 28 executive branch offices and agencies to help them meet their diversity goals. And this is done by tracking all of the dollars spent with certified diversity businesses for each state agency, state-funded college, university, and technological school. Now, over the years, I've heard a lot of other diversity offices for state say that their state agencies are responsible for reporting their diversity spend to their agency. However, in the state of Tennessee, GO-DBE office is responsible for all of that reporting and tracking. And at the end of the fiscal year, GO-DBE reports the state's diversity spend to the governor and General Assembly. And so with that, I'm going to take the time to kind of brag on Tennessee a little bit. We're very excited to report that the state of Tennessee hit a historical milestone in fiscal year 22. And that is spending over $1 billion with diversity businesses throughout the state. Now, this is the most the state has ever spent with diversity businesses in a 12-month period. And to kind of put that in retrospect, that's about a 37% increase over our previous fiscal year. So we're really, really excited to hit that milestone. So now let's dive into the issues that brought the DIT2 dashboard into existence. So one of the main reasons DIT2 was put in place was because residents in the state of Tennessee constantly had questions about the state's diversity participation. At the time, which was probably about 4 years ago, maybe a little under 4 years ago, 41% of Tennessee counties were at the bottom 25% of the nation's poverty level. That's a lot. And our current seated governor, Governor Bill Lee's very first executive order was focused on helping businesses in rural areas of the state. Now, because of our relationship with small and diverse businesses who at times were located in rural and at-risk counties throughout the state, GO-DBE was selected to be the responding office for the Department of General Services. So our need. So although GO-DBE already had relationships with some businesses in those rural and at-risk counties, this need was a little different. Now we needed to focus on the state's procurement, specifically in rural areas, and then hold outreach events in those areas to make businesses aware of procurement opportunities with the state. So along with notifying our database of those procurement opportunities, we needed to find out what other businesses were available to provide services. And that caused us to kind of break out the box a little bit. So we began partnering with other entities known for working with businesses in that local market, like the Chambers of Commerce and others. We also needed a way to share the state's diversity status throughout the year with the public, as well as our agencies, our state agencies. Agencies needed to access their diversity goal attainment information regularly, as opposed to just getting it at the end of the fiscal year when we put out that annual report to the Governor and General Assembly. And that was simply because they wanted to make sure they were meeting their goal. And with the amount of information that we would collect on a regular basis, of course, we all know procurements happen every single day, and it's not just one or two. There may be hundreds throughout the state, right? So we wanted to make sure that we were able to answer those questions of where those agencies were in a very effective manner, as well as a manner that did not take our staff a lot of time to do. And with the number of executive branch agencies that we had, you can imagine that that would be pretty time consuming. So lastly, as I just mentioned, with the amount of data that we were capturing, we also needed a system that would auto-populate information as it became available, as opposed to having to key in information manually. So we put together a short clip of a real life scenario that we've encountered over the years. And I'm sure that some of you will be able to relate to what we're getting ready to view. But just to kind of keep everything succinct, the film you are about to see is a true story. Some of the characters in this animation have been changed to protect their identities. Enjoy.
All right. Can I have your attention, please? We are more than happy to address all of your questions and concerns regarding the state of Tennessee's commitment to diversity businesses and the progress we are making. You will see that our Governor's Office of Diversity Business Enterprise, or GoDBE, has done a great job assisting diversity businesses. This has contributed to an increased number of contracts awarded to diversity businesses. Joining us today is Jessica Starling with GoDBE, who can answer all of your questions. Jessica, good luck.
Good afternoon. As Helen mentioned, I'm with GoDBE, and we've made several changes to our certification program that have dramatically increased diversity businesses' chances of being awarded contracts. First,
okay, well, if you're doing so much for diversity businesses, where's my contract? I'm a business owner, and I fall into your diversity category as a service-disabled veteran.
Okay, well, we can...
And on top of that, a couple of my neighbors who are also diversity businesses tried to contract with the state a couple of months ago. They didn't get a contract either. Where's all of this so-called diversity spend going? Where are these diversity businesses located?
She can get that.
Just how much money is the state actually spending with minority, women, service-disabled veterans, persons with disabilities, and small businesses? Huh?
She knows that.
And more importantly, where in the world do you go to find the state's procurement opportunities?
Oh, Jessica can tell you that.
Well?
Yes, sir. Those are really great questions. If you provide me with your contact information, I'll be happy to send that information to you.
Well, put me on that list.
Yeah, I want it. Give it to me too.
It was rough. We always get slammed with questions at the town hall, which is fine, but the questions we got this time will take me 2 to 3 days to answer. We've got to figure out a way to get all of the information we collect in a centralized location and make it readily available to the public. Thanks, Helen. Today, I present to you the Diversity Intelligence in Tennessee 2, or DIT 2. DIT 2 is a Tableau-based software that houses real-time information on the state's diversity spend. It can answer questions like, how many businesses are certified as a diversity business with the state? The amount each state agency spent with diversity businesses. A breakdown into the region and/or county businesses are located and their diversity category, and also a forecast of acquisitions for procurements the state anticipates needing in the upcoming fiscal year, which is inclusive of a description of the procurement, estimated value and bid date, and the contract administrator's contact information. This information and much more is now accessible to the public 365 days a year at the click of a button. Are there any questions?
All right, how many of you all can relate to that scenario? Can't see your hands, but I see you shaking your head. So as you will see later in the presentation, the DIT2 dashboard addresses all the needs mentioned previously by presenting diversity spend data through visuals like maps, graphs, and tables. We did this by using a data visualization software called Tableau. Now, through Tableau, we created the ability to interact with the visuals to provide insight into specific questions. To some extent, having and making interactive dashboards available to customers and users takes the middleman, which would be GoDBE, out of the process of having to interpret the data, and that's very, very valuable. Customers and users can now access and quickly understand the state's metrics and the impact diversity spend has on the state spend as a whole. So having our information housed in a centralized location allows us to easily integrate our data into our existing diversity software, which is B2G now, to provide real-time, logistical, and logical, simple results. We are now able to respond to extensive and complex data questions in a matter of seconds as opposed to days. So I'll now turn it over to Richard, who will do a deep dive into how DIT2 dashboard works, the types of information it produces, how you can replicate it, along with a live tour of the dashboard. Richard?
Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Really important subject, especially for us, to do this and have it be successful as well. It was briefly mentioned a moment ago, a little bit about transparency, which we certainly do. However, in addition, I think one of the main goals for everyone is to promote and encourage as much self-service as possible in this system. That's what we're really trying to do. If the user can locate the answer to their question or questions, this eliminates you having to search for the information that, as Jessica mentioned, can be very time-consuming, especially if you get asked the same question frequently throughout the year. So this means you're having to search for the same type of answer, just an updated answer to it. So you don't want to keep trying to do that. This is what this is for. So as it mentions there, we have 3 levels of visualization. We have an internal, an agency, and a public. And for us, these seem to be the most logical to target. Each level is able to view information pertinent to their needs and requirements. So what the public sees, which would be the least amount in a sense, even though they see quite a bit, the agency sees all what the public sees plus a little bit more about themselves. And of course, internal is completely open for us, so we have all the information. For the agencies, this includes the executive branch of the government. That's primarily everybody from agriculture to veterans and Department of Transportation, health, safety, general services, all the common agencies that you would expect. And then the state procurement agencies. For here in Tennessee, those are state colleges like Tennessee State, MTSU, Austin P, Tennessee Tech. Those schools, they're also listed as an agency that they can view theirs as well. And lastly, of course, the public dashboard, which I believe has probably many times eliminated questions about the program and statistics that they're seeking. The public dashboard, by the way, does not provide specific information about individual businesses and dollars. They're, however, able to view a great deal of information regarding the certified businesses, county information, diversity by agency even. They can look at gender, certification type, and other data. And I know in a few moments, we'll take a look at the dashboard and some of the areas they can view. For the county information, by the way, just so we know where some of this information is coming from, we use the Appalachian Regional Commission on Economic Status. So this is an organization that looks and compares primarily 3 areas of economic status. They look at unemployment rate, income, and primarily poverty rate with the national averages. The commission here, this particular one, there are 13 states involved, and essentially primarily on the eastern seaboard. It actually starts up in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and goes down to Georgia. There's 13 states. Now, this type of commission, by the way, there's 5 of these across the United States. So it should be, no matter where you live, there should be one of these commissions that looks at those 3 areas of economic status. Okay, next slide. So what does this DIT2 produce? As the slide indicates there, I was just thinking, access up-to-date diversity spend. Well, that's a brief statement, but obviously really important. Our goal in this project was to become more efficient and effective on our reporting. I have to say, we really did struggle trying to track and collect all the information more often than just once or twice a year for the individual agencies. It's hard to put your arms around everything when there's a lot of individual people trying to collect this without a really good method. And in our case too, each agency does have a goal, and they want to know, where they stand throughout the year, not just once or twice. So unfortunately, in the past, we would generally only be able to tell them at our annual meeting how they did in the previous year. So obviously that's too late. If you need to make any changes, alterations, or perhaps even notice that you missed diversity dollars that were not reported for some reason. So now it's too late. It's gone in the book, so to speak, and it may show that they didn't meet their goal, and possibly they did. So that's another thing we looked at. Another thing that's benefited is being able to more readily see the businesses that they work with that would most likely qualify for certifications. So this is what you call the low-hanging fruit scenario that would quickly add diversity dollars to the agency. Technically, the agency may have met their goal. They're using a particular business, but they were not yet certified. So therefore, they wouldn't be tracked and wouldn't be counted. And that's one big area we've really started to look at to help the agencies meet their goals. So in this case now, with this, the agencies, they can adjust and communicate to their staff on the diversity status throughout the year. Let's look at the benefits to the external users as well. There are, of course, areas that cross over, but generally, they're interested in a few areas such as diversity spend, the county information, and procurement opportunities. With diversity spend, this can be from any of our 5 types of certification. Jessica mentioned those a while ago, as well as they can search by ethnicity or even the different minority categories. Sometimes the questions come from individuals, and sometimes we get questions from groups or organizations that may be looking into specific areas, like could be a Hispanic chamber or the Black Caucus, all organizations that are really focused on their particular area. And, how did we do? What does it look like? What did the agencies do? So they can drill into some of that and see what happened. With counties, it's most of the time, how many certified businesses do we have there and what do they provide? And then for procurement opportunities, there are a couple locations that the general public can go to view the contract description. They can see the contract number, estimated bid date, other information as well. The opportunities include the state agencies and the colleges, by the way. For the businesses, of course, they can view some of these same areas as well and view the forecast of acquisitions plan. We have a publication that we put out each year, July 1st, which is the start of our fiscal year, that it's you might call it a snapshot in time of procurements, but all the state agencies give us what they expect to procure in the next fiscal year. That's open to the public, and a ton of information with all the agencies and departments and construction projects, colleges, universities, tech schools, and so wide open, great opportunity for a lot of the businesses. Next slide. So how to replicate this process? First line there is about data that you see on your screen, and that's the tough one to start out with. You have to first find and know where all your data is housed. In our case, we have 6 main areas actually to draw from and capture when reporting, and I'll show you ours on the next slide. You may have a couple of main information streams, and then maybe some small ones that you work with before getting goals or totals for spans or other reports. Basically, the idea is to integrate all your channels that you have procurement in to get a clear picture. Next thing is what do you want the data to tell you? What is it that you're after? What kind of expectations do you have? And overall, what are you really trying to do to be proactive on this and not reactive? And that's a big thing for us now. We're a little bit more proactive and not reactive, so a lot less time. In a sense, we're trying to know the answers before they ask the question. Initially, as far as replication, I created a spreadsheet with headings for the information that we were looking for. Most likely, you will continue to add the headings as you get into this process and realize that there's a lot of additional information that you're going to need somewhere down the road. Somebody's going to ask questions. So I believe I had about 38 different columns of headings on my spreadsheet and included everything, common things: business name, certification type, owner, who are they, the city, the county, the state, what type of industry that they're in, number of employees, are they a subcontractor or a prime contractor or both, many things. That somewhere down the road, somebody's going to ask you for this information, and you're trying to stay ahead of that. The next step is, Jessica touched on this too, some type of interactive data visualization software that coordinates with your software. In our case, we went with Tableau, which was fairly quick as far as just that software and didn't require much of a build out. Tableau is able to collect all this information and report in a format that people can understand and view and make sense to them. So along with the choice of the software, you'll also have to become close to your IT professionals on this project. You'll be spending a lot of time with them. And most of the time, and I think I might even have something later I'll talk about with this, but your IT people are going to be really important. And there'll be times where they just don't understand even your question. They know the numbers behind the scenes, but they may not always know what's accurate. So you definitely need somebody to do that. You do need an expert, someone in that knows what's going to be there. And can you go to the next slide here, Jessica? Okay, just a little snapshot of, I mentioned our 6 streams of information that we have. We use B2G now, that's our diversity software. So what we do first is get all the information into this one section of software. Edison at the top is our ERP system. So That's the state's payment and procurement system. We do an import once a month of our diversity businesses that had dollars during that time frame, both for Edison and UT, University of Tennessee. We do fairly direct imports, and it's somewhat based on that Excel spreadsheet I talked about a few moments ago. The other one going down around the circle here is SPAs. Those are the state colleges, which we have a half dozen of those that report. We have the procurement card. A little more difficult, even for us, if anybody has a great idea about P cards, we'd like to know about it ourselves, because they're like a credit card. They don't have some of the data that we need, and it's hard to match up with those that are certified with us. We do that, but it's fairly time consuming. Subcontracting, we get reports through our B2G system from contractors who they're working with. Sometimes they do it themselves as far as entering the dollars, which could be monthly or quarterly. So we have subcontracting ability. With B2G, they can actually go up to 10 layers deep of subcontracting, which we've never gone that far, but we do have a few sometimes. And then the Board of Regents colleges, those are the tech schools in the state, community colleges, junior colleges, and all those as well. So those are our 6. And then from that, from B2G, it goes live into the dashboard in Tableau. You can set this up daily or weekly, so it's pretty close to being real time. But at any rate, it's very close, and it gives everybody that opportunity to see what's going on. Okay, next slide. Issues and challenges. Now, I mentioned this a little bit a moment ago. Who knows your data and what it should indicate? Hopefully you have 1 or 2 people in your department that do know what's going on most of the time as they look at the data, because IT people can put it together, but they may not notice some of the details that you will. So things like historical agency information, trends, contract dollars. So if you see a business that might be a small business and all of a sudden they have $10 million attached to them, that might be an indicator maybe that's not correct. Or the opposite end of that, a large business and there's no dollars at all, missing businesses, all those types of things. For you should be able to see that, or somebody will, to kind of give a heads up, because at the beginning there will be a lot of back and forth with your IT department to make sure everything is lining up, all the information is being tracked, and that's where someone in your office, or maybe a couple people if you have them, can help out in these situations. Okay, next slide. All right, I'm going to start sharing some slides here in a moment. And so these are some of the areas I'm going to talk about on the dashboard, about agency spending, maybe a forecast of acquisition. You'll see how they're certified. You'll see what's going on in the counties and some of the businesses, how the certifications look, numbers, and how they're divided up by gender and ethnicity and how they're certified. So with that, I'll try to share my screen here. All right. So what we have, I brought up the county map. This is what you would see. And at the top, across the top, you'll see some totals there. We have 1,635 businesses that are certified in the state. We do out-of-state certifications as well, but for this, we're focused on Tennessee alone. And then you'll see the certifications, how they're certified between MBE, WBE, so forth, down the line. Now, with this, you just hover over any of the counties. I'm over Davidson County, which is Nashville. And to start with, just to give you an idea. So you can hover over it and see how the certifications are broken down by MBE, certification type, ethnicity, and by gender. The colorizations here as well, now you'll see that the light blue are most of them, it's what they call transitional. So they're sort of in the middle of the pack as far as economics. The redder ones are distressed counties. These lighter color are at-risk counties. We do have two counties that are what they call competitive. So they're up above. And then we have one county at the top, Williamson County, who is at attainment level. And as far as I know, there's only a few counties in the United States that are at that level. So economically, they're very high. But what this does gives a quick snapshot. Everybody can look at this, whether it's the state, the agencies, or the general public. And they can go over here and say, maybe they want to look at Shelby County where Memphis is. They can see right away the certification types, how they're certified. You can also click on the county. See if it works here. Kind of highlights it and darkens the rest of the state, so you're focused on that particular county. And down below, which you can't see too much, but there's more detail down below by county as you click on each one, as far as the names of the businesses and city and gender and ethnicity and so forth. They just don't have the dollar figures for the general public. All right, I'm going to take a look at, we have some tabs at the top here that you can click on with different information. So now we're looking at active certification analysis. This is always important too. People want to know about how many certifications you have, how it's broken down. We have 2,171 on here. The red, you can't quite see on the page here. Red are male, blue is female. We have 51% female businesses certified with us, and 49% of what we have are males. And then in each, and I'm not sure, it looks pretty small to me. I hope you can see most of what we have here. We have some ethnicity, this one area, and how they're certified on the other side. So for example, if I hover over this area, these are MBE males in red, and it breaks it down by their business activity. You know, what industry are they in? So for African American, or excuse me, for minority males, 29% are in construction, 24% in service, and 17% in IT, and on down the line. And so you can hover over anyone to quickly get this information. You can also do it by ethnicity, the same thing, how they do in all those categories. And you can see the little bit of differences in ethnicity and gender and so forth. Okay. Now we'll take a look at some diversity spend by department. Maybe they want to know about that as well. So in a sense, we're showing some of the same type of information here between the bar graph on the left and the pie chart over here. But in this case, and you can also do by fiscal year, you can go back years as well. Maybe you only want to look at the top few, so you have a little bar at the top here that you can get everybody that's say over, in this case, 17 million. So these are the top 6 or 7 agencies and what they're doing. And then for the pie over here, it's given a percentage and the dollars as you hover over each one. So right now, University of Tennessee, they have 18.8 million so far this fiscal year. And out of all the diversity dollars, that's 5.24% of the total. So you can see how quickly you can get a fairly large amount of information. And this is just on the public dashboard, but this, of course, is all on the other dashboards as well. Maybe another one we can go to take a look at spend analysis. Okay, so far this fiscal year, at least when I had this up, this is fairly live, it's $359 million. And it'll break it down the same way as we just seen before, but more in the dollar area. So here's female businesses total amount, 115 million. In detail about that, and it breaks down similar to the certifications by ethnicity and by gender. Okay, and how many there were. So, for example, here I'm on Asian males. So there's 25 businesses that Asian companies that are run by males so far this year, and which totaled $91 million. It also gives you the number of employees real quickly. So they have 19,000 full-time employees and 14 part-time, as it turned out. I think that's all I was going to do here. You can see, not to be redundant with all this, but all these tabs just show a little bit of something different, but same type of formats. In some cases, you can, once you get on, if it's your dashboard yourself, you can even drill deeper and get more information about individual agents, and not agencies, but businesses, and how many dollars you had with them for whatever time frame. At any rate, we have a little drop down box here on the left hand side, and it shows the main areas that we work with: the spend analysis, the detail, spend detail by agency and department, the certifications, that this forecast of acquisitions I mentioned earlier about the upcoming procurements, spend by category. That's a different kind of view. That's the other thing too. You can set this up with different views, and we still look at ours too to see, maybe that could be better. Maybe this would be for us. Maybe it's too confusing for some people, and need to have it a little bit different to make it make sense to them. So we can get in construction, service industry, IT, medical, anything like that. Okay. I think I'll stop sharing here, Jessica, and you can pick it back up.
Okay, well, that concludes our presentation. Chadwick, we're going to hand it back over to you to address any Q&A that we might have gotten in the chat.
I was going to say just one thing too before you get in there, Chadwick. We do have a few slides right after I finished that show the some snapshots of that dashboard. So when you get this PowerPoint presentation, that'll kind of give you a remembrance of what it looked like and get an idea. We didn't need to go through that, but we just wanted to put that in the PowerPoint so you'd have an idea for future.
Thanks for bringing that up, Richard. And also, we've also added a link to the public dashboard so that you all can visit it at your leisure if you'd like to do that as well. It's going to be at the bottom of the dashboard level slide.
Fantastic. Thank you both. We do have some questions that have come in. First one, how do you measure the impact or the success of the dashboard?
Okay, I'll take the first crack at it, Richard, and then you can jump in if need be. For us, I think the success of the dashboard is it calculating properly the numbers. And that kind of goes to one of the points that Richard made on his side of the presentation about having an expert in-house that knows your data. If you don't really know your data and there may be a calculation miskeyed in the formula when you're putting this or integrating your systems, it may be discounting several millions of dollars of diversity spend, or it could be duplicating. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a SME or a subject matter expert in-house that knows your data inside and out. So just a little background, historical background. We went live with our dashboard last February. So we're approaching in the next couple of weeks for our dashboard to be live for a year. And I think the first month, everything was okay. Maybe a month and a half, 2 months later after we had gone live, we went to do a status check on the dashboard and noticed that the numbers were off. And Richard is our numbers person on our team who was able to see, okay, why is this agency's diversity spend millions of dollars less than what it's supposed to be? And it's just because he had that intimacy with the information and knew automatically just by looking at it that it was off. So that's going to be key, making sure that you have somebody who knows the data inside and out. And for me, the success is that it's working properly. You do probably need to have other checks of information just to verify that the dollars that it's spitting out are correct and accurate.
Excellent, thank you. So I have another one here. Does Tennessee have goals or set-asides in place for state spend?
We do not have set-asides in the state, other than in Department of Transportation, which is aligned with the federal government for a lot of what they do. But for us, the rest of the state, no, there are no set-asides. Each agency does have aspirational goals, but now, we still meet with them a couple times a year as a whole and individually as well. And they all want to meet their goal because we report directly to the governor and General Assembly every year on how they did. So nobody really wants to have to talk to the governor and explain to them why they didn't meet their goal. So it's somewhat of a reverse thing, but it's fortunately worked for us. We started from ground zero back in 2004, and now we're doing $1 billion a year. And we've had the I guess the opportunity too, but the advantage in a sense that we've never gone down 1 year. So we've gone up each year, which is great, but it backs you up in a corner at some point. We don't know where that corner is going to be, but we continue to raise it every year. And I think with Tennessee, it overall, this state is growing all the time. And I think there's opportunity out there, many of it, that we haven't even tapped into yet, especially in the construction arena. There's just so much going on that we can't even tap into it ourselves. There's so much happening, but I think that's probably it for that one.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question here. How was this project funded?
It was the state. So we are part of the Central Procurement Office. So the funds that were used, of course, we utilize all in-house, meaning the state of Tennessee's technology unit. They did a lot of assisting with us. And of course, they would bill our agency for assisting with creating the Tableau dashboard. So that's how it was paid for out of our budget.
All right, another question here. How much of the dashboard is publicly displayed?
The public has about 6 different tabs that they can go to. All those that I showed today that the public can see. The only ones that they can't see, well, I should maybe go right above that would be the agencies. Agencies can see all of what the public does, plus focused on their specific agency. And they have to have a password to get in there. They have 1 or 2 people in their department where they can go in and see, ABC company, how many dollars did we spend with them, and a little bit more detail that the general public really doesn't need to know. And so it's sort of layered between public and agency and external.
All right, got another question here. Does the $1 billion in spend include both direct prime contractor spend and indirect subcontractor spend with diverse businesses? So
yes,
it does.
Subcontractor.
So the way that we calculate spend, any business that is certified with our agency in one of those 5 categories, we collect those dollars. So whether they're a prime contractor or a subcontractor, if they're certified with the state of Tennessee, we're able to capture that spend. So yes.
Now, one important thing too is here for certification related to this prime and sub, the business can only be certified in one category. So let's say they're a woman, minority, a small business, and especially in the federal world, you can get certified in multiple areas at the same time for the same business. The state here decided not to do that because they felt that they were double and triple counting the same business, which kind of skewed some of the numbers. And so even though you may qualify for multiple areas, you can only be certified in one category. So we don't do that double counting.
Got another question here. Having already gone through the process of building this database and this dashboard, and knowing what you do now, what would you change or do differently if you were starting this over?
That's a tough question.
Take a couple aspirin first.
Definitely approach it with a lot of patience.
Yes.
A lot of times, and this is one of the things that I think Richard and I ran into a lot in speaking with our tech team. When you're a techie, you have your own language, and sometimes being able to put that into layman's terms doesn't always meet up to the layman, which would be us. So us trying to understand what they're saying, and then us trying to interpret what they were saying into what we actually wanted and needed, at times could be difficult. So luckily, in the process, we came across someone who could speak both layman terms and tech term, and was able to kind of be our interpreter, if you will, to kind of explain to them exactly what we were looking for in their language, and they could kind of interpret what the tech was saying that they needed from us in order to do what we've asked them to do. So definitely a lot of patience. I probably, had I known that the breakdown in communication was going to be so separate, I probably would have gotten someone who could interpret it a little earlier in the process. Richard, what do you think?
Yes, I think that the important thing for us too is that we had our diversity software, B2G now. Without that, we couldn't have done it. Everything is in there. It just needs to be transferred out in a logical way so that you can view it. That's so, yeah, you have to kind of lay out what is it that you're looking for, all these different areas. What kind of questions do you anticipate? How much of it is in your diversity software right now? How deep can you go? And then how do we get it into this dashboard view that people can look at and maneuver as well? And we've had it just about a year now, and we're still learning, obviously, all the time, because you're not in it every day to a lot of extent. You're doing other things. That's just the way it is in the diversity world. You might be at outreach meetings or whatever, but so it's a constant learning. Like I say, we take a look at it. Maybe we want it to look a little bit different for whatever reason. We don't like this, or we like that. How can we improve it? That's the way it is with anything. You're always trying to improve it.
I'm glad you mentioned outreach, because we have a question about that. How do you go about your outreach efforts to certified businesses that are either a lower prevalence or maybe getting a lower percentage of spend as documented in the database?
Yeah, well, most of the outreach that we do is coming through our diversity software through B2G now. And it has the ability to, you can send it out to one person or the entire listing that we have in just a matter of minutes. And we do that all the time. We have outreach constantly. We send out invitations to all across the state, wherever we go, a lot of virtual as well, but sometimes in person. Communication is the key to all this. I mean, we do the outreaches and we make sure that they go to either our website or on the dashboard. They can see the current procurement opportunities. They know what's out there, and it's broken down by agencies, by colleges, construction, professional services, invitations to bid for commodities. So they can search, and it tells you too, especially in procurements that are going to be reprocured, it'll have the dollar value of what they expect. So even small business can look at it and say, yeah, I think I can do that one, or maybe I can be a subcontractor for this one over here. We also attend pre-bids, pre-response conferences in the state because there's diversity in language in those, and we do presentations there as well.
Fantastic. Want to get one more question in here. What kind of feedback have you gotten from suppliers about the dashboard?
I'm not, so for suppliers, meaning that the people that we contract with, I'm assuming that that's what we mean by suppliers.
Yes.
I've not gotten or received a lot of feedback from suppliers. Now from people that use it, maybe the general public or the state legislature or even executive administration, meaning the governor's office, all the way down to the chief procurement officer, we've gotten a lot of public feedback from it because it's very easy to use and very easy to understand. And I've seen And Richard, you back me up if I'm correct or wrong, but I think we've seen a reduction in the number of questions, those repetitive questions that we used to get all the time about the status of the state's diversity spend. And I think that's because it's now readily accessible to them, and they can go in, navigate, and filter out the types of information that they want, as opposed to having to contact our office and then wait for the information. Suppliers, it reports the amount of work that suppliers are doing. But of course, if suppliers are interested in how much work is being done in their county or within a specific category that we certify as diversity, they're able to go onto that public dashboard and look up that information as well. I just typically have not gotten any responses from suppliers, but general public and leadership, we definitely have.
Yeah, not too many from suppliers. I think that they're using it because we have the links on our website as well. So when they go in there, they can click right on to the public dashboard. They can see the procurements out there. And then on the other side, like Jessica said, for state individuals, it really takes a lot of, I don't want to say stress, but you know how it is if you get asked something that's really important, it's always an emergency. We have to have this really fast. And maybe they're used to you giving it to them in this little one-page report. Everything looks so simple, but to get to that point, it might take you all day. So this has eliminated a lot of that emergency scenario.
Well, thank you both for entertaining my questions here. All right, that's going to conclude today's presentation. I want to thank our presenters, Jessica Starling and Richard Van Norman, for this valuable information that they've shared today and for working with us here at NASPO to bring it to you. Thank you all for attending this webinar today. You will all receive a follow-up email containing today's slides and materials. Remember, this webinar qualifies as one contact hour for your continuing education credits. To receive your certificate, simply fill out the survey in your browser window once you've exited the webinar. This webinar has been recorded and will be available for viewing on the NASPO YouTube page in the coming days. All questions entered into the chat and Q&A boxes have been saved. We'll try to follow up via email for any ones not addressed during the webinar. Don't forget to check out the upcoming webinars and other events at naspo.org. Thanks again to our wonderful presenters. Thank you to our guests, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank you, Chadwick.
Have a good evening.
And everyone, appreciate it.